Salam. This story is part of a series titled Memories of Tehran. I find it interesting how our sense of smell can evoke certain memories in us. Take, for example, the burning of sandalwood incense. It reminds me of my grandpa Dorabji when he would recite his prayers, or visiting a temple. Rosewater reminds me of my auntie Manijeh when we would go to their home during the Nowruz celebrations. But when it comes to Shalgam or turnips, well, it opens up a whole other world for me. Welcome to Storytime with Kumars. My name is Kayo Jijina, and this is my story titled Shalgam and the Smell of Possum. Enjoy.
Just swallow it down in one bite and be done with it, son. That's what Dad would say whenever he wanted me to eat his brew of freshly boiled shalgam. Shalgam is the Persian word for turnip, and turnips were on Dad's list of top 5 remedies when it came to curing the common cold or fighting the flu. I felt turnips must have been a byproduct left behind following the visitation of an alien culture. Any attempt to swallow one brought on intense feelings of nausea. It was like trying to cram a freight train down a tiny tunnel. As far as I remember, the turnip torture tradition had begun early in our childhood. I could always tell when Dad was cooking up a batch of his famous turnips. Like an unwelcome guest who refused to leave, the offensive fragrance permeated every corner of the Kuche Bahman apartment. Dad was passionate about his turnips and felt they were the miracle cure, and he was welcome to eat them. On the other hand, I could not stomach them. I had to force-feed myself to get them down. As a result, the turnips and I experienced many negotiating sessions with Dad before I could finally leave the dining room table. No attempt at reasoning or pleading made any difference. I saw the absurdity of the situation, but as a young person, was not in a position to be heard by the parents in my home. If something was to be done about it, I would have to figure out another way. Dad would call out to me as he placed a plate with 3 plump turnips on the dining room table. "Son, your turnips are ready. Eat them while they are still hot. Don't let them get cold, or they will not taste good." Then it occurred to me, why hold it down? If the body wants to expel it, let it. The next time Dad cooked up a batch of turnips, I was ready. He placed the camouflage aliens on the dining room table and left. I made sure the coast was clear before cutting into the first turnip. It was soft and moist. The fork made an easy slice of it. Stuffing it into my mouth, it did not take long for the alien to transform into the Grim Reaper. I felt its cold fingers wrap around my throat and begin to squeeze. While holding my neck with one hand, the other hand punched me in the stomach. The natural tendency was to begin retching and try to break free, but its grip was too tight. My body broke out into a series of dry heaves. I waited as long as I could, hoping the contents of my stomach would follow the rhythm, but nothing happened. I had to try again. The next time, I resorted to using my secret weapon of choice, the index finger. I examined the second bite of turnip and stuck it in my mouth. Instantly, the Grim Reaper returned. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Tickle, tickle went the index finger. It was easy. Kaboom! The sound of success. Hearing the sound of vomit, Mom ran from the kitchen where she was preparing the night's meal. She always ran everywhere she went. She never quite took to walking. She made a quick evaluation of the mess and shouted, "You made yourself throw up! You made yourself throw up!" How did she know? Was she clairvoyant? When you force yourself, it comes out in chunks. Ah, that's how she knew. Had she done this before? Was there any truth to the chunks theory? "Admit it! Admit it!" came the call demanding reparation. Mom was angry, on fire, and ready for a fight. Dad stepped into the room, looked around. All eyes turned to him. Chalo, boss. Come on, that's enough. Dad had a way of diffusing Mom with just his voice. He had done it many times before. I sat there quietly, not saying a word. I knew better than to come clean on this one. It would have been like adding gasoline to a fire at a time you think it's almost out. I offered to clean it up. It did not sit right with me to have Mom clean this mess up. I figured it would help with any residual karma I might have left behind. Success. That was it. The last time I was forced to eat turnips. There were times when Dad would cook up a batch of his turnips and he would ask. If I wanted some, my response was a kindly, "No thank you." Looking back, that is the way it should have been in the first place. A couple of decades later, married with 3 sons of my own, living 40 minutes east from Seattle in Redmond, Washington, I began to experience a flashback. The smell of Dad's turnips were back and began to permeate the house. The scent seemed to be strongest next to the kitchen in the laundry room. The dryer was running and we had been having trouble getting our laundry to dry all the way through. I had been avoiding replacing it due to the financial drain it would place on our budget. I stepped outside and realized there was no warm air or steam exiting from the vent. Something must be blocking it, the voice reasoned. I slid the dryer away from the wall and I crawled behind it to take a closer look. Running my hand along the perimeter of the vent hose that ran along the back, I came across a lumpy part. The lump was heavier than any dryer lint I had felt before. It was the size of one of the boys' sneakers and weighed 3 times as much. "What's going on here?" came the voice. I grabbed my tools and took it apart, unclamping the hose from the outside vent to take a peek inside. There it was. In the middle of winter, a possum had chewed its way through the slits in the vent in an effort to keep warm. Unfortunately, the hot air must have asphyxiated it, and with time began the process of decomposition. That's when I figured it out. The sickening sweet smell of turnips was back, and this time it was not Dad's cooking.